Hello and welcome. You're watching UTV Live at 6.
Good evening. These are the stories making the headlines.
This man will spend a minimum of 24 years behind bars for murdering, dismembering and dumping his friend's body parts in a reservoir.
These actions were callous, cruel and brutal beyond comprehension.
UTV can reveal that a national inquiry into grooming gangs looks set to shake up the system here.
And the Equality Commission says the Supreme Court ruling that gender is defined by biological sex needs clarified for Northern Ireland because of the Windsor Framework.
Also tonight,
meet the movie makers of the future who've been hitting the red carpet in London.
And it's turning warm over the weekend. I'll have all the details coming up later in the programme.
a man who murdered his friend and dumped the remains in a reservoir in County Tyrone in 2022 has been jailed for 24 years. The judge told Stephen McCourt that what he did was callous in the extreme.
Damien Hegney died after being stabbed multiple times. You may find some of the details in Sarah O'Kane's report. Distressing.
This is the face of a man who murdered, dismembered and dumped the remains of his friend in a County Tyrone reservoir to cover up what he had done. The body parts of Damien Hegney, who disappeared sometime at the end of December 2021, were recovered by specialist divers here at Capper Reservoir months later. Today, Stephen McCourt was jailed for at least 24 years for what was described as a callous and ferocious killing. A statement was read outside court on behalf of Damien Hegney's family, including his mother.
The last few years have been torturous for our family. No one should ever have to deal with the heartache of losing a son and a brother, yet we have to wake up every single morning knowing that Damien was murdered. Damien's life was taken so cruelly, and the actions that followed were depraved, more than we can ever begin to express. It's actually impossible to stop thinking about what happened to Damien. We go over it again and again, and it haunts us.
41-year-old McCourt of Riverview in Oher was found guilty of murdering the 45-year-old Cookstown man back in April. The prosecution claimed he was the last person to see Mr Hegney alive. He stabbed him multiple times in the head before placing his body parts in plastic bags. The defence argued it was impossible to determine the cause of death due to decomposition. The judge told the court he was satisfied that Mr Hegney died from a ferocious knife attack. He also rejected any suggestion that someone else was involved, as there is no credible or reliable evidence of a third party.
During sentencing, the judge described what happened to Damien Hegney as a murderous and vicious knife attack. He accepted Mr Hegney had been stabbed multiple times in the head. He said the disposal and dismemberment of the victim's body was callous in the extreme and caused distress to his family, especially his mother. Now, there was little reaction from McCourt in the dock as he was sentenced to 24 years.
The court was told McCourt still denies murder but accepts the verdicts of the jury. He now must serve 24 years in prison before being considered for release. Sarah O'Kane, UTV Live, Belfast.
UTV has learned that a national inquiry into grooming gangs looks set to have major ramifications in Northern Ireland. We can also reveal that a child sexual exploitation scandal here, first exposed by us more than a decade ago, helped inform damning research about the scale of the crime and failures by authorities.
Well, in another development, Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips will be meeting with the executive on Monday to discuss ways to protect children and bring perpetrators to justice. Here's our crime and security correspondent Sharon O'Neill with this exclusive report.
It was a scandal which took years to come to light, years during which countless young girls' lives were destroyed. To this day, the true number of victims of grooming gangs in England and Wales still not known. A national inquiry now ordered to right a terrible wrong.
People need to be more aware of what is going on our streets by our own people.
Northern Ireland's not immune, and we can reveal that damning audit drawn up by Baroness Louise Casey, which prompted Prime Minister Keir Starmer to announce an inquiry, referenced a report about a child exploitation scandal here, first revealed by UTV.
That was 13 years ago when the issue wasn't really talked about. Operation Owl was mounted into 22 cases where young vulnerable girls went missing from care multiple times. It would later emerge police initially didn't connect them when they should have. An inquiry was ordered to gauge the extent of the problem. No surprise to find out child sexual exploitation was a growing threat. Given the explosion of grooming online, it's even bigger now.
If we do not investigate fully and explore and research and get solid data to work from, we're, I suppose, failing our young people, both of today and of the future, if we don't keep up and keep abreast of the challenges that they're experiencing.
If I had known what was going on regarding the grooming and all that, I think things would have been a lot different.
This mother, whose 21-year-old daughter Caitlin died from a drug overdose 3 years ago, believes it's long past time for another long look.
It's just going to become a bigger issue in my eyes. So absolutely, a review would definitely need to be done.
Caitlin's tormentor Derek Brown, at the end in blue, part of this grooming gang, recently sentenced for exploiting young women in the most horrific way, forcing them into the sex trade on the streets of Belfast in exchange for drugs. Their twisted activities went on for years before they were caught. This national inquiry doesn't include Scotland or Northern Ireland, but there look sure to be ramifications UK-wide. In a rare joint statement to UTV, the Health and Justice Ministers Naomi Long and Mike Nesbitt said they're appalled at the very serious findings of the Casey audit and are determined to do all they can to protect children and young people from sexual exploitation. The Home Office has not yet consulted the Departments of Health or Justice on this matter. However, a commitment has been made that the Safeguarding Minister, that's Jess Phillips, will follow up on the announcement of the inquiry with the devolved administrations. We will therefore consider the issues raised during that engagement and respond accordingly. Deborah Hannah will never get over just how much her daughter suffered.
It was just money and drugs. That's all. That's what my daughter was to them, basically.
Deborah Hannah ending that report from Sharon O'Neill. The Equality Commission says the Supreme Court ruling that gender is defined by biological sex needs to be clarified for Northern Ireland because of the Windsor Framework.
The Commission has launched a paper that sets out a roadmap of the actions it will take to achieve legal certainty for employers, service providers and public authorities. Nathan Hannah reports.
A landmark Supreme Court ruling.
The unanimous decision of this court is that the terms woman and sex in the Equality Act 2010 refer to a biological woman and biological sex.
It came following a long-running legal battle over the definition of woman in Scottish legislation. It's a decision that has major implications for single-sex spaces like female changing rooms and toilets. The ruling impacts England, Scotland and Wales. It left questions over what the law will be in Northern Ireland, with ministers and organisations looking for guidance from the Equality Commission. It has now said the Windsor Framework brings an added complexity for Northern Ireland in the wake of the ruling, and the Commission is now going to go to court itself to try to work out what it means.
The reality is the judgment did not look at legislation that applies here in Northern Ireland, unique to Northern Ireland, the Article 2 of the Windsor Framework. Article 2 is about the non-diminution of rights that people enjoyed prior to Brexit. There's a debate as to whether or not the whole issue of transgender, single-sex spaces, etc., was something that people enjoyed before, either through civil rights or equality of opportunity on the basis of gender. That's not clear-cut. Only the courts can determine that.
The Rainbow Project says it's taking time to consider everything that's in the Commission's paper.
It's good that the Commission has recognised this complex legislative picture, but of course that doesn't provide any certainty to trans communities who are fearful about what this might mean for their rights.
There's criticism of the Equality Commission's decision to go to court and a call for Parliament to step in.
Well, this is very clear, and I'm looking towards our sovereign Parliament to take action here. If indeed the Equality Commission is right in its assessment that Article 2 of the Windsor Framework impacts the judgment, well then it's quite clear. The sovereign Parliament has to take action to stop the creep of Article 2 into Northern Ireland affairs.
The Equality Commission says it fully recognises the challenges faced by employers and organisations as they try to understand what it means for them. The Equality Commission did offer some advice, but it is complicated. What happens next is now up to the High Court, with the hope that any hearing could take place early next year. Nathan Hanna, UTV Live.
A young family has been left shaken after a pipe bomb exploded in front of their home in Mullaghbawn outside of Newry. A loud explosion was heard in the early hours of this morning.
The former Chief Executive of Mid and East Antrim Council has been charged in connection with concealing information. Anne Donaghy is to be prosecuted on 3 counts of allegedly concealing records, aiding and abetting another person to erase or conceal a record, and attempting to erase or conceal a record contrary to Freedom of Information legislation. She denies all the charges.
Cash totalling more than £2.6 million has been seized as part of a National Crime Agency investigation into suspected money laundering in Newry. The money was recovered following searches of 2 businesses and 2 residential properties. The 26-year-old Newry man was arrested and released on bail.
And the High Court has ruled that Communities Minister Gordon Lyons can join Loyalist activist Jamie Bryson's challenge to plans to have Irish language signs installed at Grand Central Station in Belfast. It comes after Mr Lyons argued the decision taken by Infrastructure Minister Liz Kimmins to approve the scheme was both controversial and cut across his own departmental responsibilities.
A farmer has told UTV that if he was to be hit by inheritance tax changes today, he wouldn't make enough money to sustain his farm. From next April, any assets over £1 million will face a 20% tax rate. That includes animal and farm buildings.
Well, in a moment, we'll be speaking to the Agriculture Minister live, Andrew Muir. But first, in the latest of our special reports, our South East reporter Stuart Robson has been to find out how farmers are preparing for change.
Making sense of numbers can sometimes be difficult, especially when it comes to taxes. This time, most farmers are standing shoulder to shoulder in opposition to impending changes.
I feel that people are going to be bounced into making decisions which the test of time might not necessarily prove to be correct.
From next April, agricultural and business property relief will be capped at £1 million. Anything over that will be taxed at 20%. Buildings, livestock and land will all be included in a farm's valuation. It sparked countrywide protests when first announced in Northern Ireland and at Westminster. It's a decision Keith and others feel could have an impact far beyond next year.
The simple fact is that the sector isn't profitable enough whenever you count the valuation of property to be able to sustain this for one generation, never mind 2.
They've brought these proposals in genuinely without thinking about it and not realising the knock-on effect that long term that this is going to have, not just on farmers but all the other industries that depend on farmers.
An added stress that's stretching across farms and families.
The inheritance tax would be devastating on my family farm.
The Kinnears have had to adapt to change through tragedy. After Timothy's father John died, the farm was eventually passed on to him.
For you now kind of taking on the reins, how fearful, I suppose, are you for the future, for the industry as a whole, if these new rules were to come in?
So something so simple can just absolutely obliterate farming, and you know, if the government don't watch themselves, they will do away with Irish produce. Inheritance tax hit me today. I would have to sell at least a third of the place, and if I was to sell a third of the place, there wouldn't be enough income to support me and if I was to have a future family.
Landowners will now be trying to plan ahead, perhaps thinking of selling up or gifting what they've owned for generations. However, whoever has passed on the farm has to live for 7 years after for an exemption to apply. One union is urging the government to rethink and listen up.
It really does pull at the heartstrings, some of the things which farmers are actually considering. You know, we need to see some sort of a morality clause in there for the elderly, for the disabled, for those incapacitated. They can't make decisions or cannot get plans in place at the moment.
The government argues that the changes are necessary to better fund public services. It says 75% of farmers will not pay inheritance tax. The remaining 25% will pay less than most people and can spread their payments over 10 years interest-free. The industry looks determined to continue to speak up as farmers begin to count what change might just cost. Stuart Robson, UTV Live, County Armagh.
And the Agriculture Minister, Andrew Muir, is with me now. So, Andrew Muir, let's go to inheritance tax first. This is a major issue for families here. It's a UK government policy, but what are you doing to protect farming families?
So I've been consistently raising my concerns about this with the UK government. I fully support the Ulster Farmers Union in their endeavours in this. This tax has been proven as a result of analysis by my department to have a disproportionate and detrimental impact in Northern Ireland because we're made up primarily of family farms, and I would again call for the UK government to not proceed with this.
It doesn't sound like they're listening though, Andrew.
It does feel in some ways when I've been engaging with them that talk to the hand, the face ain't listening. I think that is wrong. The UK government have made a number of missteps in recent times. They're not showing that level of understanding the impact of their actions. Look at, for example, in relation to how they're targeting the poor and the disabled. That is wrong. People with disabilities should be supported. Those changes shouldn't go ahead, nor should the issues in relation to inheritance tax.
OK, let's move on to another issue we raised this week, bovine TB. Now, it looks like infection compensation is at an all-time high. We believe that maybe the number of badgers are 10 times what your department estimates. You have the option for a badger cull later this year. What are you going to do?
So I'm very conscious of the concerns around TB because it's having a real mental toll upon farmers. For the first time in a long while, my department has been able to get agreement between farmers, the industry and also wildlife groups in terms of a blueprint for the way forward. And I'm committed to doing that in terms of delivering actions. I've put over £2 million to additional actions to drive down the levels of infection. Over the summer, we're going to consult on options around wildlife intervention, and also we're looking at further measures to improve biosecurity on the farm. The situation is not sustainable. We must turn the curve.
Well, if we look at the figures, 55 million was paid out in 23-24. You're talking about a £2 million programme. That's not touching the sides.
So as Minister, when I came into office, the Secretary of State had proposed to cut compensation to farmers. I've kept that. I've kept that at 100%. And that's what primarily those costs are that we're spending around TB. But we must drive this down. We need to invest in initiatives to reduce the infection, but we've got to do this together. This is something that I inherited, and I'm determined to work with people to reduce the level of infection. It's not acceptable.
OK, one more issue before you go. Rural support. We talked about the mental health of farmers this week as well. What are you doing to support that organisation?
So my department assists rural support in the good work that they do, and in conjunction with the Health Minister we'll be engaging with them to see how much more we can do across government, because we need to support farmers and our rural community more broadly in terms of mental health. It's an important issue. I meet many farmers out and about, and they very value the work of rural support, and I want to support them going forward.
Andrew Muir, there we'll leave it. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Still to come on this evening's programme. We meet some amazing young movie stars who are winning awards for their inspirational work.
And it's going down to the wire in the quest for the Sam Maguire, with 4 Ulster counties bidding for a place in the semi-finals. So for that and more, do stay with us.
You're very welcome back to Fridays Live at 6 with Sarah Clark and Paul Riley. A reminder of tonight's top stories. A man who murdered, dismembered and dumped his friend's body parts in a reservoir is jailed for a minimum of 24 years.
And UTV can reveal that a national inquiry into grooming gangs looks set to shake up the system here. It's time to look at the headlines making tonight's ITV News at 6:30.
Yes, with all the details, here's Charlene White.
Coming up on tonight's ITV Evening News, a life sentence for the man who murdered schoolboy Daniel Anjurin with a samurai sword in Hainault last year. Another government U-turn, this time on welfare. The government may have avoided a backbench rebellion, but at what cost? And all aboard the celebrity wedding of the year. Join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
OK, turning to sport now, and the British and Irish Lions play their first tour match in Australia tomorrow against the Western Force in Perth. Ireland star Bundy Aki and the Lions have been making new friends on the golf course, with some local kangaroos joining the Lions round. Ireland's Dan Sheehan captains the Lions, and he's determined to start their Aussie adventure with a win.
It's massive, especially off the back of a slightly disappointing loss in Dublin against Argentina. You know, we have an opportunity now to show what we're about and sort of set our standard for the whole tour. So you know, I think some of the boys are obviously really excited to get their first chance as well to put on a Lions shirt, and we need to do everything we can to make sure it's a special day.
Staying with sport and in Gaelic football, it's the business end of the All-Ireland Championship with 4 mouth-watering quarter-finals this weekend.
Yes, 4 Ulster counties are in the mix for a place in the semi-finals, as William Essler reports.
It's set to be a bumper weekend at Croke Park, with 8 counties battling it out in the quarter-finals of the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship.
It's a massive weekend for Ulster football and for Gaelic football in general. The rules have been transformative to the championship so far.
The all-Ulster clash between Monaghan and provincial champions Donegal kicks things off, but the Donegal men have been less than impressed, with only having a 6-day turnaround from their previous game.
There's been a lot of noise about that. This week they're unhappy, with some justification for sure, about having to play on Saturday afternoon. It might play into Monaghan's hands a wee bit if it goes down the stretch.
That tie is followed tomorrow night by Tyrone facing Dublin.
There's been a few big Tyrone-Dublin clashes in the last 25 years in Croke Park, and Tyrone haven't won one in quite a wee while. It is a game that's going to the wire, and I just have a feeling that Tyrone will have enough in that one.
Sunday's action begins with Meath taking on Galway, before the defending All-Ireland champions Armagh take on the competition's most successful side in Kerry.
Armagh Kerry last year was a phenomenal game of football. Real exciting, entertaining end-to-end game from start to finish. This year's has the potential to be even better. It's Armagh's first really big test of their All-Ireland defence. It's probably the first point at which they can get knocked out. So we will know a lot more about them come 6 o'clock on Sunday evening.
Will Essler, UTV Live.
Now, a group of young filmmakers from Belfast has hit the big time, winning a national award in London. The pupils from Park School made the film and also acted in it.
Yes, the film focuses on the theme of bullying, and Michelle Napier went along to meet the young superheroes.
Scene 1, take 1, action.
The young people from Park School in Belfast, Northern Ireland for Superhero School.
Has anybody seen my shoes?
Superhero School tells the story of overcoming bullying. Written and filmed by the pupils, they got creative with their camera to express some real-life experiences.
The children were involved from very start to the end, from the brainstorming to writing the script, to filming, to recording all on the boom mic, to the acting, prop making. Amazing experience, you know, having a celebrity and all these celebrities and everybody presenting it. But the main thing for us was, because we're a special needs school and we got nominated for a mainstream award, that was the big thing for us.
I'm quite glad in the movie. And I steal Speedy shoes.
I had to do a speech. I was nervous at the start, but I did it anyway.
What did you like about it?
I'm going to for park and filming and acting.
The school is buzzing at the minute about it all, and it's been fantastic to see the children grow in their, you know, self-belief and their confidence, and that to me is a superpower in itself.
Sorry.
Apology accepted. Fancy a race?
Are we mates now?
Yes, we're going to take things slow.
With plans for a sequel to the film, the sky's the limit for these young stars. Michelle Napier, UTV Live, Belfast.
Really impressive stuff there from Park School.
Yes, brilliant work.
And even better news, school is almost out for summer.
Yes, Aisling is here with the weather.
Feel-good weather is set to continue throughout the day. UTV weather, sponsored by the Grant Arona R290 heat pump.
Hello there, very good evening to everyone at home. Well, it's almost the weekend and it has been very cloudy through today. But as we head into the weekend, you can expect some good spells of sunshine to break through. It's going to feel a little bit warm as well. Now, all the while, right the way through the outlook, it is going to remain quite breezy, but certainly the humidity will climb over the next few days. So temperatures above average for the time of year. Over the next few hours, there's still a lot of cloud around, and the cloud always thick enough to produce a small amount of rain and drizzle. But by tomorrow morning, a very mild night to come. Temperatures only dropping back to around 15 or 16 degrees Celsius. Normally at this time of year, we'd expect maximum temperatures to be around 18 degrees, so it is a relatively mild night. As we head through Saturday morning then, any lingering cloud and rain will very quickly clear away. So if you wake up to that cloud, sunshine is on the way. A dry day to come for all of us then as we head into the afternoon. And maximum temperatures widely getting up to around 20 to 21 degrees Celsius. Perhaps the sunshine just turning a little bit hazy at times. But across the rest of Ireland, there is some lingering cloud around, perhaps just giving the odd spot of light rain and drizzle, mainly down to the southwest. It's not impacting the daytime temperatures, however, highs of 18 to 21 degrees Celsius. Then as we head into Sunday, it will be cloudy at times, but it's going to feel warm. It's going to feel a little humid with highs of 22. Coming up next, your pollen forecast.
UTV weather, sponsored by the Grant Arona R290 heat pump.
Making the most of summer. Perry sponsors UTV pollen count.
Well, the pollen count as we head into Saturday is going to jump up to high. It'll stay high on Sunday and on Monday, and the main pollen at the moment is coming from grass pollen and from nettle pollen. Bye-bye.
Pamela is here with UTV Live from 7 o'clock and Paul is back with the late news at 10:30.
Yes, I'm back with the late team then. I hope you can join me. The ITV News continues now with Charlene White, but from all of us here at UTV, have a lovely evening and a great weekend.
Bye-bye.